As the Princess of Etheria, I was born to be recognized by Soulbound Blade, which is known as the Sword of Supreme Love. In my last life, in order to help Soulbound Blade give birth to a sword spirit as soon as possible, I was baptized by boiling copper water and wiped my blade with fresh blood every day. On the day the sword spirit took shape, the ether flow gathered in heaven and earth, vibrating in all directions. Even the celestial sovereign of Celestial Spire came down to the world and personally bestowed me with his deity, allowing me to take charge of the world's fortune. Just as I was about to give thanks, the sword spirit took on his true form and ran a sword through my chest. He was holding my sister in his arms, and condescendingly scornful gaze at me. "You are only borrowing my light to become a god. You can sit on this throne, and so can Seraphina." At this moment I realized that the original sword spirit actually liked my sister all along. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Seraphina, who wanted to exchange her companion's sword with me. And this time I didn't hesitate to throw Soulbound Blade to her. I'd like to see how they can become immortals and gods without me. The emptiness of Soul Spark's dissipation felt like it was just a second ago, but when I opened my eyes again, I was surrounded by the day I gathered the sword spirits. As the spirit tribe, we are above the human race, the gods below. As the spirit race royal bloodline, in the birth, will also attract the companion sword. The strength and attributes of the companion sword also represent our strength. My companion sword is Soulbound Blade, one of the 10 divine swords. And when the sword spirit is born, I can take charge of the mortal's fortune. Therefore, since I was a child, I have grown up in the expectation of everyone, and even the master of the kingdom predicted that I would be the divine oracle of Etheria's next ascent to divinity. Under such expectation, I ushered in the day of awakening the sword spirit. In my last life, before I awakened the sword spirit, there was a small hiccup. My half-sister, Seraphina, tried to steal both of our companion swords before the ceremony. If it wasn't for my father's timely discovery, Soulbound Blade would have changed hands. Seraphina was kneeling in the center of the hall, and shouted at my father, who was sitting on the main seat with an expression of resentment. "Why is it that Aurora, who is also your daughter, has had the Soulbound Blade since she was born, and I only have a broken bronze sword that is used for the seasons of farming? I can only have a broken copper sword for the 4 seasons of farming. I'm the eldest princess of the spirit race, but Aurora is always on top of me. What is it about talent that surpasses it? It's clearly because you're biased in favor of her, Father King." Father King was exasperated by her words. "As a sister, you stole your own sister's companion sword, and you still have the nerve to argue here. In these 100 years, it seems that I have indulged you too much." Seraphina, however, remained unforgiving, and even cried out directly in a hurry, "Indulging me? Since you married Xin, when have you ever cared for me again? Father, how would my mother feel safe under Netherstream if she knew you were doing this to me?" While Seraphina was in tears, I noticed that the Soulbound Blade on one side was vibrating, and even emitted a faint sword chirping sound. In my last life, I was blind, but I didn't realize that the Soulbound Blade was so obvious. Seraphina staggered up from the ground, and looked at me with hatred in her eyes. "Father, if you can't decide, then let the Soulbound Blade decide. Aurora, do you dare to join me in dropping blood to recognize my master and see who Soulbound Blade chooses?" Seeing such a determined Seraphina in this life, a guess suddenly surged in my heart. Methinks she's been reborn as well. Before my father said no, I agreed without hesitation. "Fine. If Soulbound Blade wants you, then I don't want a sword that will rebel against its master at any time." Seeing that I agreed, Seraphina's eyes lit up. Father couldn't stop me in time to see that both Seraphina and I had already slashed our palms. Under everyone's gaze, the Soulbound Blade immediately shot straight up into the sky after feeling Seraphina's blood. After circling a few times, it hung straight in front of Seraphina, who laughed and trembled. "It's me, Soulbond Blade has chosen me. Looking at Soulbond Blade, which couldn't even wait for me to perform the recognition ceremony before it already made its choice. A wave of sarcasm welled up in my heart. In my previous life, ever since I learned that it was one of the 10 great divine swords, in order not to dishonor it, I was baptized by the scorching copper water day in and day out. Even in order for it to give birth to a sword spirit as soon as possible, every day I would use my own life spark to wipe the sword for it. I've suffered everything in 100 years. And now I've given Seraphina a graft. Just as the crowd was in disbelief at the choice Soulbond Blade had made, the beads of blood that flowed down from my palm unintentionally dripped onto the broken copper sword that Seraphina had casually thrown on the ground. In the next moment, the broken copper sword shone brightly and violently stood in front of me. Is it recognizing me as its master? Ha 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 ha. Sister, I can't believe that this broken copper sword is where you belong. I told you. How could I, the eldest princess of Etheria, be worthy of a broken sword? Seraphina held the Soulbond Blade in her hand and mocked me loudly without hiding it. You are a perfect match for this broken sword. Sister, don't you always say that you want to work for the welfare of mortals? Then you should help those pariahs sow and plow their fields. Father King looked at the chaotic situation and only felt a headache. Seraphina, you stop it. Hurry up and return the Soulbond Blade to Aurora. No need. Before Seraphina opened her mouth, I was the first to refuse. Looking at the dull copper sword in front of me, I reached out and held its hilt. Since the sword spirits have each recognized their masters, let it be so. So what if it's a copper sword? So what if it's a divine sword? It ultimately depends on the person holding the sword. Seeing that I was still so arrogant, Seraphina was a bit furious. Don't play smart with me. When the time comes and you can't even condense the sword spirit of that broken sword, they'll see how arrogant you can still be. Facing Seraphina's provocation, I didn't choose to go toe-a-toe. She was right. Nowadays, my top priority was to make this copper sword gather a sword spirit as soon as possible. After all, a sword spirit that can gather form can almost reach the realm of a demigod. Returning to the palace, just as I wanted to take the life spark and rub this copper sword like I had nourished Soulbond Blade for 100 years. Instead, it had the spirit to stop my movements and even waved one side of the sword in front of me again and again. On the hilt of the sword was engraved the art of farming and animal husbandry, and on the body of the sword were the words mountains, rivers, grasses and trees. I asked tentatively, are you trying to tell me that the way to gather spirits for you is to make the grains and livestock in the mortal world have their own time? The bronze sword heard my words and flew swiftly around me twice. Just as I was trying to peer through prism of mortals to see where in the mortal world I was needed to rain down grains. Instead, I found that the earth, where the seasons are supposed to be in order, was actually suffering from a famine that stretched for thousands of miles. How could this be? Seraphina, how long has it been since she sowed the earth? As soon as my words fell, Seraphina's disdainful voice outside the palace rang out. Aurora, you're so self-sacrificing that you're actually rushing to care about the deaths of that group of pariahs. We're a spirit race, and they're worth worrying about. Only someone with low vision like you would be willing to do this kind of hard work. You are just as lowly as your mother. Seraphina, her mother died when she was born, and although the people of the palace have never mentioned anything about her mother, Seraphina has always claimed herself as the first daughter of a proper queen. As for my mother, Seraphina feels that she is just a stepchild with a bad name, and she usually has no respect for her. Hearing that she actually dared to humiliate my mother like this, my originally suppressed anger instantly exploded. Shut your mouth. Seeing the attack I swung at her, Seraphina did not dodge or avoid it, and even wore a hint of a strategizing smile. The next second Soulbond Blade appeared out of nowhere, directly splitting apart my attack and even stabbing straight at me. Although the copper sword beside me blocked in front of me in an attempt to protect me, it still only resisted for an instant in the face of Excalibur. If I hadn't reacted quickly, I was afraid that I wouldn't just have been cut on the cheek by it, but would have been killed directly on the spot. I held down the copper sword, which was shaking madly because of my excitement. Seraphina had never seen me in such a sorry state since she was a child. And now, she couldn't help but laugh. Aurora, now do you know what it feels like to be trampled underfoot? Look at you now. It really cracks me up. Do you know that right now? As long as I give the order to play, Soulbound Blade can take your life. That's a great feeling. I coldly watched her having a fit, and then poked her directly at her pain point. Seraphina, you've been slacking on your duties for the past 100 years, and have caused starvation amongst the people. Do you think that if this matter is reported to Celestial Spire, you'll still be able to ascend to divinity and become a god? As expected, when she heard my words, Seraphina's originally complacent smiling face stiffened. If you want to become a god, you must accrue blessings. Seraphina's blessings are already shallow, so if the matter of harming the people in the mortal world is brought to the attention of the gods, it will be considered as the end of the possibility for her to become a god. Under my threat, even if Seraphina was reluctant, she could only return in defeat. After she left, I followed the guidance of the copper sword and laid grains for the famine land through Prism of Mortals. Using Life Spark as a guide, I also rained down the water of the heavenly river, causing the grains to grow at a rapid rate. Looking at the ears of wheat hanging down and the ripe melons and fruits, the people wept with joy and rushed to the sky to prostrate themselves. Thank you, O God of the Valley. Thank you, O God of the Valley. At that time, I only noticed the people of the mortal world, not noticing the golden light that flashed across the originally dull copper sword after receiving the blessings offered by the people. After a few rounds of sowing seeds for the earth, it was the day in my last life when I gathered the sword spirits and ascended to divinity to become a god. But this time, the main character was Seraphina, who had released a message in Etheria that she would summon the sword spirit today and become the new divine oracle. Looking at the people who had heard the news, Seraphina held her neck high, as if she had already been given the position of a god. As if she was waiting for me. Only when she saw me appear did Seraphina open her mouth with a high heart and pride. Today is the day I become a god, and from now on, I will be a god, a world away from you all. Aurora, don't be jealous. With that she drew out her etherflow and injected it directly into the Soulbound Blade under the crowd's face that wasn't considered good. In the next second, the Etheria that was originally like spring in all seasons suddenly changed with storm clouds and lightning. With two booms, a green-clothed man with an abundance of divine power around him just appeared in front of the crowd. The first to let out an exclamation of surprise was the State Master. Sword Spirit. He is the Soulbound Blade Sword Spirit. This is a demigod. Zephyr looked at them scornfully, but immediately softened the moment he looked at Seraphina. Ignoring the crowd around him, he directly stroked up Seraphina's cheek with an almost infatuation in his eyes. Seraphina, we finally meet. You have awakened me. You are my destined lover. For the rest of my life, I will protect you from danger. Seraphina couldn't hide her excitement either. She looked at Zephyr excitedly, anticipating what would happen next. But until the dark clouds dispersed and everything returned to calm, the sight of the etherflow converging in the last world did not appear. Even Celestial Sovereign didn't come down to the realm and personally bestow her deity. The smile on Seraphina's face gradually disappeared, and she pulled Zephyr's sleeve, questioning him excitedly. Why is there no etherflow convergence? What about Celestial Sovereign? Why didn't I become a god? Speak up. Zephyr was also wondering. He tried to converge the heaven and earth etherflow, but was unsuccessful. Without waiting for Zephyr to answer, I felt myself flying uncontrollably. Immediately after that, the copper sword that I had originally put away, but it manifested in front of me, emitting a clanking sword sound. With the experience of my last life, I naturally knew that this was the precursor to the sword spirit's imminent emergence. but it was just a copper sword. Could it really give birth to a sword spirit? Just as I was hesitating, Seraphina, who was originally filled with anger because she hadn't been able to become a god, mocked in an unfavorable manner. A broken copper sword. And you still want it to give birth to a sword spirit? Aurora, you're really crazy. I'm the kind of person who can't be provoked. Seraphina's sarcasm made me throw away my hesitation, and directly drew out my etherflow, combining it with the copper sword. As a result, the sky, which had originally cleared up, was once again covered in dark clouds. But this time, underneath the layers of dark clouds, not only was there a dragon's roar, but there was also Aurelian traveling through it. Between the flying sand and rocks, even Iron Peak Ridge was shaken by the falling of boulders. Even the people present were directly pressurized and unconsciously prostrated themselves on the ground. I was the only one who was not subject to any resistance, standing amidst the crowd with my clothes in a loving manner, glaring at the sword spirit that had suddenly appeared in front of me. The man's hair was bound with a golden crown, and his black robe was embroidered with gold silk dragon patterns. His eyes gazed straight at me, between his idle steps, but with the power of thunder. Master, my name is Xander, the sword spirit you awakened. The birth of 2 sword spirits in one day is unheard of in Etheria. I noticed Seraphina's tensed facial lines. She was afraid. Afraid that I would just invoke Celestial Sovereign, ascend to divinity to become a god, just like in my last life. But this time, unlike my last life, I didn't become a god immediately. Seraphina then suddenly sighed in relief, and changed back to her high and mighty appearance just now. Heh, you really let you summoned a low-ranked sword spirit by mistake. But unfortunately, it's still not good enough compared to my soulbond blade. You'll just have to wait and see. The divine oracle of Etheria ascend to divinity will definitely be me. With that she pulled Zephyr and monkeyed her way to her palace. Others may not know what she wants, but I do. After the sword spirit chooses its master, it will be the person in the world who best suits the master's soul bond ritual. Seraphina is trying to rely on soul bond ritual to enhance etherflow, ascend to divinity and become a god. I suppressed the mockery at the corner of my mouth, and only hoped that she would not regret this choice. Returning to the palace, seeing Xander who was following me step by step, I couldn't help but be a little curious. Xander, Zephyr is relying on the divine power of the heavenly god, and my 100 years of life spark nourishment to be able to polymorph. Why are you doing this? I didn't do anything for you. Hearing my words, Xander slightly frowned, and then pressed his forehead against mine. 100 years of life spark. It hurts, doesn't it? Pale golden etherflow surged out where we were pressed against each other, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that my heart disease was actually healing a little. In order to use life spark to nourish soulbond blade, my heart has been overworked to the point of becoming sick, and I've never told anyone about this. In my last life, even after the gathering of spirits, Zephyr, who is connected to my heart, knew that I was suffering from heart disease, but did not care about it in the slightest. Sensing my sudden sadness, Xander wrapped his arms around me and patted my spine. You've already done a lot for me. You plowed the earth in spring and summer by order of the hour, making the earth rich in grains, and the people's gratitude for your merits and the incense they offered for you are also the blessings that allowed me to gather the spirits. Aurora, I will protect you in the future, so that you, as your name suggests, will be free of all worries. I leaned into Xander's arms. Though as Seraphina had said, he was perhaps not as powerful as Zephyr. But the fact that he was just holding me made me feel a rare sense of peace. After the day of the gathering, all of Etheria had their eyes on Seraphina and me. They were all guessing which one of us would be the first to be promoted to Divine Oracle, and for the next half a month, Seraphina didn't even show up in front of me looking for trouble. But what I didn't expect was that Seraphina and Zephyr approached me while Xander was going to cast the art of spring plowing on earth for me. I frowned and subconsciously summoned the guards outside the palace. But Zephyr casually threw the already dead guards in front of me. Aurora. They can't help you. Looking at Zephyr, who took people's lives with a wave of his hand, I was trembling with anger. You call yourself a demigod, but you randomly kill the spirit race. How different is this from a demon? Zephyr didn't care. His tone was full of arrogance. I'm a soul-bond blade spirit. Even ordinary gods have to bow down when they see me. Do you think I'm afraid of retribution? Seraphina's hand manifested a flame. This is the divine power she gained after her Zephyr Salband ritual. Seraphina's eyes looked at me fiercely. I originally wanted to let you off, but you don't know what to do with your life and forcefully converge the sword spirit. You have to fight with me. Then don't blame me for not remembering my sisterly love. Today, you must die for me. Soulbond Blade's attribute was fire, and his flames could even be compared to the vermilion bird's flame. Realizing what she was trying to do, I immediately fought with her in order to save myself. But Seraphina, after the soul bond ritual, is now on par with me in terms of strength. And Zephyr even disregarded my 100 years of conservation of him, and directly took advantage of his defenses and slapped a palm to my heart. Dare to make a move against Seraphina. You are simply looking for death. The pain in my limbs caused me to violently vomit out several mouthfuls of blood. And I couldn't even get up. Seeing my present wretched appearance, Seraphina laughed openly. Aurora, look at your present appearance of a fallen dog. It simply gives me great pleasure. After tonight, the spirit race will only have me as a princess, and I will only have me as the divine oracle of ascend to divinity. You'll sleep here for a long time. As her words fell, after teaming up with Zephyr to summon monstrous flames, the two of them instantly disappeared from the spot. They also cleared their breath, cleanly, before leaving. The air around me instantly turned scorching hot. I struggled to get up and tried to escape, but I was surrounded by the flames with nowhere to go. Seeing that the flames had begun to incinerate my robes, the searing pain of my skin caused me to cry out into the void, choking back cries for help. Xander, help me! The huge fire attracted the palace guards. I heard my father, who had heard the fire from overseas, was anxiously rebuking the guards. How could there be a fire? Aurora is still inside. Put out the fire, you guys. But the fireworks that Zephyr descended. It is not ordinary clear water that can be extinguished. Aurora, Aurora. Sensing that I was in danger, Xander, who had broken through the air, saw a monstrous sea of fire in his eyes. He urged his divine power to save me from the sea of fire, but he was defeated because he was a wood-type spell, and was killed by fire-type spells. But he didn't care at all about the fire, pouring out etherflow, and Seraphina, who came here under false pretenses, opened her mouth and sneered. A lowly sword spirit, still trying to resist the law of the 5 elemental restraints, really not self-conscious enough. Sister Aurora is also pitiful, but if there was a powerful sword spirit, she wouldn't be trapped here. Father told her to shut up. But in front of everyone, Seraphina actually released her pressure. Father, now that I've broken through to the demigod realm, you're just a spirit race. How dare you talk to me like that? Everyone was shocked that she had entered the demigod realm in just half a month, and no one even dared to accuse her of this treacherous statement. Zephyr held her hand, and similarly scornful gaze at the flaming Xander. Aurora dared to compete with Seraphina for the divine oracle position. I'm afraid that even the heavenly Tao couldn't bear to see it, and thus sent down the god's power to destroy the divine oracle. Couldn't stand to watch and thus sent down divine fire. Since you're seeking your own death, you'll die with her. Xander ran etherflow and staggered into the sea of fire, ignoring the surrounding crowd. Seeing me covered in burns and wailing on the ground, Xander ran to me like a madman. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm late. I'm useless. Because my windpipe was burned. I couldn't even say I don't blame you. I couldn't even say I don't blame you. Go. Quickly go. Xander hugged me tightly. How refused to leave me and escape alone. Looking at the palace collapsed beams, my heart a burst of sadness. I did not expect to come back to life. I actually still lost my life in the hands of that pair of scummy men and women. But the fatal pain did not come as expected. I struggled to open my eyes, but I saw Xander protecting me under his body. Fighting off the burning beams alone, Xander slowly lowered his sweaty head as he had done the first time he healed me. The moment our foreheads touched, my originally bruised body was instantly healed. Even the surrounding flames were no longer burning. Xander's voice was soft but extremely certain. Aurora, I won't go back on my word. In the next second, the golden-colored ether flow was dispersed from both of our bodies, strongly suppressing the flames. A spell formation suddenly appeared underneath the two of us, and colorful auspicious clouds and haze appeared on the originally dark night. Hundreds of birds came from all directions, and a Sanskrit voice came from the sky. Divine oracle descends to the world, bright with wisdom, blessed with accumulated merits. Spiritual aurora, accumulated good on earth, such as the snowy mountains of the golden sun. Sealing the 3 realms of the 6 domains of the division of transport divine oracle, with celestial spire a ray of golden light descending. I was in the sea of fire ascend to divinity. My ascend to divinity directly shocked Etheria. The state master excitedly shouted, "Second princess ascend to divinity. Second princess has become a god." The spirit race crowd bowed in reverence. Even I myself touched the god race emblem on my forehead incredulously. And Xander on the side also changed. He changed from the black pupils at the beginning to the golden pupils today. And the divine power in his body was not comparable to the past. He actually became a god with both of us. Seraphina screamed incredulously. How is it possible? How could you become a god? Obviously the one who became divine oracle should be me. You bitch. You're the one who stole my godhood. It must be you. Zephyr. Kill her. Kill her for me. Zephyr's eyes were glazed over, and in the next second his figure flashed in front of me like a ghost. If you dare to steal Seraphina's god position, I will take your life. Seeing Zephyr, who still doesn't care about himself, I raised my hand and grabbed him by the throat. Now that I've become a god, even if you're the sword spirit of one of the 10 great divine swords, you're still no different from an ant in my eyes. You and Seraphina set me on fire. I'll settle the score with you now. Zephyr was hit by my slap and Soul's Park was unsteady. I directly took his flame art and swung it at Seraphina, who was trying to escape from the side. Under the crowd's watchful eyes, Seraphina held her face and rolled on the ground, screaming, my face hurts. Stop it." On the other side, Zephyr, despite his serious injuries, crawled to Seraphina's side and tried to retrieve the flames. Just too late. Looking at the already disfigured Seraphina, Zephyr disheveled and stayed where he was. In the end, because Zephyr and Seraphina attempted to kill a god, I sent down divine punishment and sent the 2 down to Soulforge dungeon of the Spirit Clan for life. As they were being taken down, Seraphina begged Father to save her at the top of her lungs. Her father sighed hopelessly, clearly disappointed in her. Knowing that there was no way to save her, Seraphina cried out in blood and cursed me as if she were in hell. Aurora, I will pay you back 100 times over for today's shame. Even if you are a divine oracle, I will drag you to the 18 layers of hell. I will make you die a horrible death. Looking at the 2 people who were brought down, my heart was not only happy, but also had a trace of doubt. Just now, I clearly noticed Zephyr's abnormal look after Seraphina's disfigurement. After the crowd retreated, Xander visualized the mirror of the past life. Aurora, perhaps it can solve your confusion. The mirror of the past life is a divine artifact that can peer 10,000 years into the past. As if sensing my doubts, the mirror's surface gradually blurred, and then became clearer as if it was clearing the clouds. It lets me see, is 10,000 years ago Soulbond Blade was cast out. Through the Chi chaos, the sword spirit broken, and thus sleep all kinds of past. But why with Soulbond Blade came out together? There is another sword. Originally thought that Xander would not have an answer. Who knows that he was transported to explain to me. Soulbond Blade is known as the Sword of Supreme Love. That is because together with it was born. There is also a female sword Moxie. Just in the Yan Huang 2 Emperors War Chiyu battle. Mystic Veil Blade broken. Yan Huang 2 Emperors for the memory of its merits. Its sword spirit into the soul weave cycle, so that it can be reincarnated. Thus when Emosia reincarnates and descends, the sleeping male sword stem will accompany it. When the two recognize each other, they will be able to invoke the ether flow of the world and be able to become a god. Thinking of my past life, I was shaken. And I couldn't stop stuttering when I opened my mouth. You mean that I am Emosia reincarnated? But Zephyr, why did he recognize Seraphina as his master? Xander pondered for a while, then pointed out, your sister has the artifact Eternal Bloom on her body, which can change her appearance. Zephyr is afraid that she has been deceived by that face of hers. Xander's words reminded me of a small incident 100 years ago. After I was born, Seraphina loathed me. But one time, she actually took the initiative to approach me and asked for a magic treasure. At that time, Seraphina was still young. Even if she used Eternal Bloom to change her appearance, no one would be able to find out. At most, they would say that she had changed. After all, after I was reborn, I couldn't figure out how Zephyr suddenly fell in love with Seraphina. But now it seems that Seraphina has set up a big game at a young age, and she has fooled the Soulbond Blade sword spirit. Because she recognized the wrong lover. Zephyr, who is the Sword of Supreme Love, did not become a god with a single thought after recognizing her master. But now that the two of them can no longer make waves, it's kind of their retribution. Before Xander and I returned to the god realm, Father proposed that he wanted to hold a big wedding for us in Etheria. Thinking that we wouldn't be able to fulfill our filial duties by our father's side, Xander and I gladly accepted. As the only divine oracle to ascend to divinity in Etheria in the past 100 years, Xander and his wedding could be described as incomparably grand. Even Aurelian, which symbolizes auspiciousness in the three realms, was hovering over the ceremony to celebrate. Who knew that just as the ceremony was about to end, a large amount of black fog suddenly appeared in the direction of Etheria's Soulforge dungeon. Before everyone could react, Seraphina and Zephyr, who were supposed to receive their punishment in the Soulforge dungeon, flashed into the hall. Unlike in the past, the two of them are now covered in black aura, just like the image of Fellspawn. Seeing the solemn ceremony, Seraphina's eyes turned red. I am now imprisoned by Aurora in Soulforge dungeon, suffering the punishment of heartthorn agony day after day. But you, Father, organized a grand ceremony for her. Why are you so biased? Just because she became a god. Well, then I'll show you that I am Fellspawn, and I will trample her under my feet. The sky-rushing shadow veil wrapped around the Etheria crowd, and even my father king had his throat contained by shadow veil because of a momentary lapse. Unbridled, with a roar from me, countless golden lights scattered out from under my feet. Wherever the golden light went, shadow veil dispersed. I revealed my Dharma form and entered the realm of supreme forgetfulness. My tone was neither sad nor happy. Seraphina, I originally wanted to keep you alive. But you Fellspawn yourself into the Fellspawn Tao, so I can't keep you now. Seraphina laughed and vowed to fight me to the death. Zephyr showed up to help Seraphina fight me. After Fellspawn, Seraphina's magic had increased greatly, and her strength was almost the same as that of the gods. Soulbond Blade is one of the top 10 divine swords, and with the combination of the two of them, it was a bit difficult for me to deal with it. As a result, just as I was about to use all my divine power, I violently vomited a mouthful of blood. Aurora. Xander held me up with an expression of unconcealed anxiety. Seeing this, Seraphina laughed triumphantly. as if Etheria was already in her pocket. Aurora, even if you become a god, so what? You're still counted by me and Zephyr. Zephyr's flame is not only indestructible when it encounters water, it is also like a maggot on the bone. As long as it is touched by it, it will be branded in the body, and can be awakened again at any time. The pain of the flames burning your heart. It's not pleasant, is it? But before she could be complacent for long, the sky, which was originally covered in black clouds because of Shadowvale, flashed with lightning and thunder. Xander. Angry, Xander's golden pupils flashed. And in the next second, the pain of burning my body with fire disappeared without a trace. The stagnant divine power also reappeared in the sky. The stagnant divine power also flowed in my body again. The original phantom that was about to dissipate coalesced once again, and I pinched out the killing technique, swift as the wind, and attacked towards Seraphina. Under the full force of a true deity's strike, Seraphina at the pseudo-god realm was simply unable to resist. In just one move, she was sent flying by me, and her core's heart was cracked. But even so, she spat out blood from her mouth but still roared at me with unwillingness. Aurora, you bitch. I'm the first princess. There's absolutely no way you can surpass me. I haven't lost. I haven't lost. Seeing Seraphina, who is still uncertain of the truth, I finally punctured the well-intentioned lies that Etheria has built for her up and down during these 100 years. First princess. Seraphina. Do you know that you're not the daughter of any queen at all? You're basically the product of a linen maid's backstabbing of her father's queen, and a bejeweled child. Father was merciful and temporarily left your mother alive, waiting for her to give birth to you before bestowing her death. In order for you not to be inferior due to your status, and allowed you to call yourself a first princess. And you are greedy, wasted as a human daughter. Suddenly knowing the truth, Seraphina's face appeared blank for a moment, and then she screamed and roared at me. You're bullshitting me. It's impossible. How could I possibly be the daughter of a courtesan? Under the excitement, Seraphina was directly angry and bloodied, accelerating the shattering of Core's heart. Seeing that Seraphina was in danger, Zephyr appeared again. Only this time, he drew out his Core's heart, and his face was filled with violent colors. You hurt my beloved. I will make you pay even if I use my body to attract the heaven and earth killing tribulation. When the heaven and earth killing tribulation appears, I am afraid that the 3 worlds will be devastated. Seeing that he was going to fight us to the death, I wasn't alarmed. Instead, I looked at his face distorted because of violence, and said in a flat tone, the fine iron of the 5 mountains, the gold of the 6 harmonies, cut off the hair and claws, and threw them into the furnace so that the children's boys and girls' 300 drums were loaded with charcoal, and the gold and iron were moistened, and then they were made into swords. After the words, Zephyr's eyes gradually glared round. How do you know Dryad Mystic Veil Blade's quenching method? It's obvious. It's obvious that only Dryad Mystic Veil Blade knows about it, right? I picked up on his unfinished sentence. Zephyr, aren't you curious as an Excalibur sword spirit, why you failed to advance to godhood after you were born? Zephyr clenched his fists, obviously poked at by me. But with my next words, he was even more dumbfounded. After you fell asleep, the Mystic Veil Blade Sword Spirit was put into Soulweave cycle by the 2 Yan Huang Emperors to be reincarnated and reborn. And it was only waiting for her to be born again so that you could awaken and the 2 of you could be reunited once more. So on the day of my birth, you were attracted to me and became my companion sword. Zephyr incredulously took 2 steps backward. Impossible. You're talking nonsense. How could I not remember Amosia's appearance? It's clearly Seraphina. How could I have found the wrong lover? Seeing his self-deluded appearance, I sighed quietly. I then waved my hand and a delicate flower bud flew out from Seraphina's forehead. In the next second after the pod disembodied, Seraphina's appearance instantly transformed. Completely different from what she looked like before, Seraphina tried to block her face with her sleeves to no avail. The soul-bound blade in Zephyr's hand clanked to the ground. How is it possible? It's wrong. Why is it wrong? How could I be wrong about Emosia? After becoming a god, I was in charge of the world's chi, so I was able to get a glimpse of it long ago. The bond between me and Zephyr, broken. Your love is so shallow that a face can confuse you, Zephyr. As the sword of supreme love, you are truly unworthy. Zephyr looked like he didn't hear me. As a divine sword, he originally had deep chi and fortune. That was why he had committed many sins, yet he was still ranked as a demigod. However, after realizing the truth, Zephyr's divine foundation was destroyed in a matter of moments. Dryad Mystic Veil Blade, due to its supreme love, gained supreme divine power. Zephyr, however, entered into a marriage with Seraphina. That is, he betrayed Emosia, and now that he has learned the truth, he has completely suffered from the backlash of his divine power. Xander stood in front of me, explaining Zephyr's abnormality to me. Just as I sighed, I heard a scream from Seraphina. When I looked over, I saw that Zephyr, who had lost his mind, had actually crushed Seraphina's soul spark with his own hands. Seeing him act in such a cruel manner, I felt a chill from the bottom of my heart. As a result, he looked at me in the next second, and then pulled out a twisted smile. Emosia, I was wrong before. Can you forgive me once? I've already killed that bitch. No one will keep us apart this time. Emosia, I miss you so much. Join me and help me become a god. If you take one more step near her, they'll make sure your sword breaks on the spot. Xander's eyes were glazed over and he held his copper sword in front of me. But now Zephyr had already lost his mind, and he was releasing his divine power in a frenzy. You're just a broken copper sword. Even if I haven't become a god, I can still trample you under my feet. I pulled Xander back. Zephyr was right. Xander's chances of winning against a mad Zephyr were slim. Unlike Seraphina, Zephyr is still a demigod, and if I kill him, I will be punished by the heavens for killing the gods, which is what Zephyr relies on. Just as he morbidly crossed Xander and rushed towards me, about to caress my cheek, a copper sword penetrated his heart with a thunderous force. Zephyr looked incredulously at the copper sword engraved with mountains, rivers, grass and trees and the art of farming the 6 animals, piercing into his death point, and his whole body collapsed to the ground like leaves falling in the autumn wind. How dare you, regicide! Xander sharply retracted the copper sword. Only this time, Zephyr on the ground clearly saw that the other side of that copper sword is engraved with Zephyr's original maniacal and unwilling look turned gray in this instant. You are. Xander condescendingly scornful gaze at him, just as Zephyr's look when he killed me in the last life. Aurora called me Xander, but the 4 Seas and the 8 Wastes usually know me by another name. Xander Yuan. Xander Regulus. When I heard the word Xander, my surprise was no less than Zephyr's. Xander is actually the Xander, the first of the 10 sacred swords. Since the 2 emperors wore Chiyu, Xander Regulus because in the war loss is quite large, so I do not know where. Even the 2 emperors are on the Xander Regulus sword to keep quiet. No one expected. Xander, in order to repair the sword spirit, actually strayed to Etheria, but also in the amnesia accidentally recognized me as the master. If Zephyr and Seraphina hadn't set fire to me and stimulated Xander, he wouldn't have been able to recover his memory so quickly. And the reason why I could become a god by fire is also because Xander and I shared the blessing of Xander Regulus for 10,000 years. If my killing Zephyr was deicide, then as the one sword of heaven and earth, Xander Regulus, which was granted by the 2 Yanhuang emperors to punish evil spirits and correct the law, was the one who killed Zephyr. If he kills Zephyr, he is beyond reproach. Before his death, Zephyr seemed to have finally regained a trace of sanity. With fondness, he seemed to have 1,000 words, but only murmured a wordless sentence. Looking at the soul-bond blade, which only left 2 broken swords after it dissipated, I seemed to have seen it 1,000 years ago, and my heart was still aching after all. The last words he left behind. I read them. He said, "The original transformed into a white dragon. Looking at the blue wave, the sword of the most love, finally only ended up with a broken love and end." After Xander and I pacified the scourge of Etheria, under the amnesty of the celestial sovereign. After Xander and I pacified Etheria, we were pardoned by the celestial sovereign, and I took over Etheria with the honor of the celestial sovereign, while Xander returned to the throne and became the god of law enforcement in the celestial realm. It's just that every time the various god friends want to find him, they basically have to visit the spirit race. Even Celestial Sovereign felt a headache, and often teased him. I don't even know whether this god clan has gained 2 more deities or lost an enforcement god, but you're even more infatuated than the Dryad. Mystic Veil Blade. Xander, however, does not feel the slightest bit ashamed of this, and is even proud of it. Looking at Xander, who was holding me beside him, and was content to be the king's husband of the spirit race, I let out a sigh of contentment. At this time, the sunlight outside the window was just right, and the 4 seasons of the mortal world had come to the best conclusion. And after 2 lifetimes, I have finally found the love of my life, unique to me. My brother and I are the last generation of bloodline in Silver Pines, carrying the hope of Frostthorn kin ascend to divinity. Father passed on to us the secret art of Frostthorn kin cultivation. I lived up to my name and was the first to cultivate 9 embercloaks, but on the day I came of age, I cut them all off in front of the entire clan. In my previous life, I practiced day and night, and it was not easy for me to grow 9 tails and wait for the ascend to divinity, but the embercloak was broken on the day of the tribulation. And the eyes of the whole clan flew to the side of the younger brother, and his fox body into one. My brother became the Silver Pines Frostthorn sovereign, but I was accused by the whole clan of using forbidden techniques to steal people's cultivation. My father cut my heart out and used my flesh to defend my brother against the ascend to divinity celestial tribulation. I was beaten to death by the Skyfire judgment. Until the moment I died. I didn't even want to understand how I could recognize my brother in public with the embercloak that I had cultivated with all my might. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the day I inherited the secret art. 1 Frostthorn kin's secret art was passed down little by little from my father to me and my younger brother, Han Ji, until the golden light faded away. It was only then that I snapped out of the excruciating pain of Skyfire judgment's whacking. This is already my Silver Pines Frostthorn kin's last hope. If none of you can ascend to divinity upper realm again, after 100 years Frostthorn kin will be removed from the world. My father's familiar words rang in my ears, and the tip of my heart involuntarily trembled. Coldstop hurriedly stepped forward to pacify him, smiling and relieving him. The elders of the clan have all counted. My brother is gifted, and will certainly be able to lead Frostthorn kin to revive the glory of 1,000 years ago. Father need not worry. The body is important. The words out of his mouth were just like his previous life. If I hadn't experienced it myself, I would never have believed that my benign brother would have such a deep heart. Since the cultivation that I had worked so hard to get back in exchange for my life would not fall on my own head, then this secret technique can be used by whoever I like. My cultivation is more than clear to myself. I still have to rely on my younger brother for the hope of revitalizing Frostthorn kin. Don't let father and the clan down. Hearing me beat a retreat, my brother instantly changed his face. What are you saying, brother? Even Elder Frostthorn kin has had his fortune told. Where could it be false? Father King also spared no effort in taking out his 1,000-year-old secret art to throw his weight around. Brother can't afford to be discouraged on his own. Father frowned at the sound of his voice, the superior's pressure pouring towards me. Han Ling. Don't forget your mission. You don't have a choice. If Frostthorn kin topples over, you have no life to live. When that time comes, don't blame this king for taking you sky offering. As the Lord of Frostthorn kin, Father King shoulders the heavy responsibility of reviving Frostthorn kin. I understand that it's not easy for him. The little foxes at the bottom of the cultivation talent is pitifully small. I in Cold Stop is Frostthorn kin generation of the only remaining bloodline. Mother in the birth of us after the arcanum loss of soul flying away. Ascend to divinity on the world's hope falls on the Cold Stop and I. This is the mission of our birth, and also the hope of the ascend to divinity. This is the mission of our birth, but also our destiny. Whoever can be the first to cultivate the nine-tailed ascend to divinity will be the future Frostthorn sovereign of the Frostthorn kin. The elders of the clan had done a fortune-telling for us, and said that I was gifted and talented, and that I had great potential to cultivate immortality. So in my last life, I practiced day and night, dreaming of saving my clan and leading Frostthorn kin back to the glory of 1,000 years ago. After inheriting the ancient secret arts from my father, I lived up to my name. My cultivation grew by leaps and bounds. And it wasn't long before I grew 9 tails. Seeing that my ascent to divinity was imminent, I was full of joy and prepared to announce the happy news to the whole clan on the day of my coming of age, and then crossed the ascend to divinity to the upper realm. However, when the Skyfire judgment came, my 9 embercloaks broke from their roots. In front of the face of the whole clan straight to fly to the Cold Stop side, around him for a long time, and finally with his fox body into one. Embercloak is the fox's closest thing. But also the fate of the artifact. No one would doubt that Embercloak could recognize the wrong master. Embercloak, who had fallen on me, rubbed affectionately against Cold Stop's face. He tenderly and gently stroked the fur on Embercloak and looked at me with a mournful gaze. My good brother, I know that my natural talent is not as good as yours, and the tail that I fought for my life to grow, how can you bear to steal it away? Isn't this killing me? Without Embercloak, I'm no different from an invalid. Considering that we're from the same mother and you're trying to revitalize Frostthorn kin, I can spare your life. As long as you admit your mistake in public and offer your course hard, consider it as ending our brotherly bond. His seemingly generous words instantly roused the anger of the entire clan. They swarmed up to me, stabbing their weapons viciously at the bloody wounds from my severed tail. What kind of natural talent is superior? I pooh. The elder even had a moment of misreading. This Honling is just a person who walks the path of evil. What's the difference between robbing someone's embercloak and taking someone's lifeblood to cultivate evil arts? Not to mention laying hands on his own brother. It's a shame that the Second Highness was so kind as to want to keep this evil creature alive. Luckily, Embercloak's recognition didn't allow him to succeed. Otherwise, if this kind of demon ascended to divinity, Frostthorn kin would have been ruined by him. He should be made to endure the Skyfire judgment for eternity. Coldblood was elected as the new Silverpine's Frostthorn sovereign, but I was stripped of my father's skin and made to undergo the ascend to divinity Skyfire judgment for him, and with the loss of my Embercloak, I became a mere mortal and was beaten up in the celestial tribulation. I lost Embercloak and was beaten to death in celestial tribulation. At the moment of death, I couldn't understand what he had done to make my Embercloak willingly recognize him as Lord. Right now, looking at his face full of anxiety, I didn't move to collect my emotions and bowed towards my father. Father, don't worry. I naturally won't forget our mission, so I'll go back to cultivate. On the way back, my mind raced to think about every detail of my previous life. Father passed the secretary to both me and Cold Stop at the same time. Is it possible that something went wrong with the secret art? I learned the art of cultivation. Could it be that he learned the art of plunder? But no matter which one of us ascend to divinity, it's all beneficial to Frostthorn kin. Father King shouldn't be able to favor one over the other. I was puzzled, and looking at the spell running in my hand, I could only seal it away for the time being. Since I don't know if it's a secret spell that's gone wrong, I'll cultivate it myself this time. I'll see how he can still steal it from me. Back in the palace, My father sent me the usual tonic elixir of ether, which was twice as much as cold stop, obviously pinning most of his hopes for ascent to divinity on me. This puzzled me more and more. In the past, I always thought that father loved me a little more because I heard from the clan elders that I looked more like mother. That's why no matter what Han Shi and I argued over, he always unconditionally took my side. With father's attitude, the clan has even subconsciously honored me as the future Frostthorn sovereign. But after experiencing the father-son antipathy in my previous life, I realized it. He is not in love with me, nor cold stop. He loves the whole Frostthorn kin. Who can cultivate successful ascend to divinity upper boundary? Who is his heart? Whether it is me, or cold stop, in his eyes are stepping stones to the throne. Revitalize Frostthorn kin tool. Understanding this, I became suspicious of all the things my father sent me, and now that I haven't found the crux of the problem, I want touch those elixir of ether again. I put away the elixir of ether that was sent to me, crushed it in a tile jar, and poured it into the flowers by the door. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, I began to run the old gong method I used in my previous cultivation. Although the speed of cultivation is not as fast as the ancient secret technique, fortunately, I am gifted, so it's not too slow. Feeling the arcanum in my body gradually raging and surging, when the sixth tail vaguely grew behind me, I finally stopped. This time I didn't rush to continue cultivating, but instead got up, drank 2 mouthfuls of tea, and walked out the door for a walk. Since I can't determine what method cold stop used to steal my ember cloak, he'll be one step behind him in cultivation at every turn. The arcanum is inferior to him. Let's see how he can still steal it. I had just walked up the street when a figure suddenly appeared behind me and dragged me into the corner of the alley. As I panicked and prepared to cast a spell to counteract it, I saw that the person was Elder Frostthorn kin. His gray, vice-like gaze glanced back and forth at me, stroking his snow-white beard. You've only cultivated to 6 embercloaks as well. I've heard that cold stop is as well. I giggled in my heart. How could it be such a coincidence? Without waiting for me to think about it in detail, the elder said suspiciously, your talent is way higher than his. Why are you cultivating so slowly? But the Fox King didn't teach you the secret techniques. I hurriedly shook my head to deny it, and humbly said, the elder thinks highly of me. My younger brother and I are from the same mother, so naturally our talents are not much different, and I use the secret techniques taught by my father. I thought he was going to continue to ask questions, but the elder waved his hand and gave me a set of techniques. This is a relic that your mother left for you. Take a look for yourself and don't tell anyone else. After saying that, he turned around and left, leaving me frozen in place for a long time without regaining my senses. Mother left behind a gong method, then why not give it to cold stop? I practiced it tentatively, but was surprised to find that I had grown a 7th tail in a matter of moments. I don't know where mother got this kind of thing. The cultivation speed was terrifying to this extent. I didn't dare to stay any longer and hurriedly returned at a quick pace. When I passed by Cold Stop's chambers, I heard the underlings at the door discuss. I heard that Second Highness grew an embercloak in a day, and now it's 7. The blood in my body almost froze, and my body could no longer move forward by half a point. Is the Second Highness actually cultivating so fast? Isn't it rumored in the clan that his talent isn't as good as the Great Hall? Rumor, right? Seems like he said it himself, just that no one has seen it. If the Second Highness can even grow 7 tails, then will the Great Hall be ascending to divinity soon? It's really God's blessing on my Frostthorn kin. How could this be? Obviously, the elder had just said that Cold Stop had only grown 6 tails, so the words from the elder's mouth would definitely not be false. But just after I practiced my 7th tail, the news came out from Han Shi as well. It was only half a day before and after. Is it a coincidence? The fear of having everything taken away from me by him in my previous life is still fresh in my mind. My body was drenched in cold sweat, and my pupils couldn't stop trembling. As I raised my foot to return to my chambers, I ran face to face with my father, who had heard the news and rushed to celebrate. "Cold Ling, how is your cultivation going? I heard that your brother has grown 7 ember cloaks. Ascend to divinity is in sight. You have always cultivated better than him. How is it now?" My heart was beating frantically, wondering what kind of role my father was playing in this matter. How much did he know about Cold Stop snatching Embercloak? Pursing my lips tightly, I didn't say anything even after a long time of stalemate. Father King was impatient and was about to open his mouth to reprimand, when Hanji welcomed him out from the palace. "Father and brother came. Are they here to celebrate Cold Stop's growth of Embercloak? Why don't you go in at the door?" He approached my side and reached out to wrap his arm around my shoulders. But brother's cultivation has always been more powerful than Hanji, and he's definitely one step ahead of Hanji in ascend to divinity. So father won't want Hanji at that time. Looking at their father and son's joyfulness, a strong uneasiness welled up in my heart. I secretly poked out my Embercloak under the hem of my shirt, and sure enough, the next second, the newly grown Embercloak was uncontrollably sticking towards his direction. My chest plummeted and sank, weighing myself down. Putting away my tail, I went back to my palace on the pretext that I wasn't feeling well. When I went back, I sat on my bed and stared at my newly grown tail, blurring my vision with tears and crying uncontrollably. Really do not understand what the problem is. Obviously this tail was practiced with mother's gong method, and Hanji did not know about it. But now why did Embercloak recognize him as his master? If it is destined that the Embercloak that I desperately grew is to serve others, then I might as well end it with my own hands now. After cutting off the 7th Embercloak, I sealed my mother's book of feats and switched back to the old spells I used. I don't believe that I have one less tail than him this time, and Cold Stop can still steal it. But when father returned from Cold Stop's bedchamber and passed by my door, he came in but regretted. It's a pity that Cold Stop, this idiot, can't even tell his tail apart. He didn't grow a 7th Embercloak at all, causing this king to be happy for nothing. In the end, the talent is not as good as yours. How is my son's cultivation going? In an instant, coldness soaked through every inch of my skin. I braced myself to cope with my father and sent him back before once again folding back into the palace. Turning over the palace's contents, not even sparing the underlings' quarters. After checking it but didn't find any abnormalities. Then how in the world did Hanji know the details of my cultivation? I didn't continue practicing my gongfu that night, and lay in bed with my eyes open until dawn. The next morning I asked my subordinates. Sure enough, I didn't cultivate, and Hanji didn't move either. I thought left and right. Perhaps he had placed some kind of prying boundary outside my palace. If that was the case, then the palace could not stay any longer. Adulthood is just around the corner, and if I can't grow the 9 tails yet, my powers will stop for the rest of my life when I become an adult. Then Frostthornkin will really be finished. I can't let the lives of my entire clan go unchecked. Thinking of the secret realm within the clan that my father had ordered me not to enter, I decided to go there for a retreat. On my way there, I kowtowed 3 times in front of my mother's tombstone. But I was caught off guard and sucked into a boundary. Inside, I saw a wisp of my mother's soul that was left behind before she was born, and I also saw her real face. I didn't believe it when I heard it from other people. But it turns out that my mother and I really do have a 9-point resemblance. But from her face, I couldn't see the shadow of the Cold Stop. The boundary left her with her life's work compiled by the secret books of Kung Fu. After practicing can cover their own cultivation. Hide all Embercloak. See this. I was overjoyed, and hurried to follow the Kung Fu on the try. Sure enough, I didn't even reveal half of my breath, and no one but me could know how many Embercloaks I had grown. the moment I exited the boundary. It shattered and dispersed in response. Seeing that Cold Stop had no chance of finding out, I sighed in relief. After kowtowing to my mother 3 more times, I turned around and entered the secret realm. I didn't appear again until the day I came of age. Using my mother's kung fu to hide Embercloak, I walked into the center of the festival. However, I heard the people around me excitedly discussing, "How many tails does the Second Highness have now?" None of them are allowed to reveal the news. It's not possible that they've grown the lost 10 Embercloak, right? I don't know. I guess it won't be less. Otherwise it wouldn't be possible to hold back until today to reveal it to us on the spot. My heart sank violently to the bottom. A gust of coldness emanated from my body. It was hard to hold on until Cold Stop appeared. My hidden Embercloak, however, was frantically agitated at this time. I hated that I couldn't immediately detach myself from my body and fly towards him. My father was sitting on the stage, and Hanshi slowly walked in front of me, making a please gesture. Brother is Frostthornkin's most hopeful ascend to divinity. Brother first please. See, Skyfire judgment has arrived. I think brother must have grown 9 tails. Right. I was completely gripped by despair, and my gaze went gray. Finally, I realized how ridiculous I looked as I tried to avoid it by all means. A second before the 9 tails frantically broke free and left my body. I withdrew my spells and unfolded them, cutting them off as many as I could in front of the entire clan. A roar of pain escaped my throat, and sweat soaked my entire body. Cold Stop was startled, pointing at the broken Embercloak and losing his voice. "Are you crazy? What are you doing? Since I can't get it, no one will want it." My sudden movement startled the entire clan. Blood splattered everywhere, and the furs of the few foxes closest to me stuck together wetly. Father was the first to react and immediately flew from the high platform to me, trying to cast a spell on me to undo what had just happened. But it was already too late. Growing out of the 9 tails, I had long been one step away from ascending to the upper realm of divinity, and my spells were far superior to my father who hadn't ascended to divinity for years. Everything he is doing now is just mending the fold. I kept spitting out blood from my mouth, and the broken tailbone behind me was scarlet. Father King struggled for a long time, even going so far as to spend 1,000 years of his own cultivation. But after all, he failed to connect my Embercloak, which fell to the ground in front of the whole clan, then quickly withered and rotted, and was finally blown away by a gust of wind. My father lost control of his emotions and hissed angrily at me. "Coldling, you sinful animal, what the hell have you done? Why did you do this to the king? Are you going to destroy the entire Frostthornkin? Where did Frostthornkin wrong you to make you take such vicious and venomous revenge? How could this king give birth to a white-eyed wolf like you? His roar carries a strong arcanum. I just lost my 9 tails and all my cultivation at the same time. At the moment, I'm nothing more than a weak fleshly mortal." Shaken by his arcanum, I spat out another mouthful of blood, lumped on the ground in a sorry state. He didn't even have the strength to gasp for air. The surrounding clansmen who were originally expecting me to revitalize Frostthornkin are now looking at me with poisoned gazes. If it wasn't for the fact that my father was in front of me, they probably couldn't rush up and tear me to pieces. Sins. Is God going to kill me? Frostthornkin. He's already the most talented fox in the entire clan. It's not easy for him to cultivate 9 tails, and today's Skyfire judgment was probably attracted by him as well. Why in the world is this happening? That's 9 Embercloaks. I can see it clearly. Frostthornkin hasn't had a 9-tailed fox in how many years? Even the fairy king who ascended to divinity a few hundred years ago only had 8 tails. It's over. It's all over. Frostthornkin is over. We're about to be exterminated. He must have been instigated by someone. The Great Templar wasn't like this before. He's disappeared for so long. Maybe he's already been taken over by an evil demon. Please, Your Majesty the Fox King, be clear about this, in front of the entire clan. Draw out the soul of the great undersecretary of the hall and reveal his original body so that we can die with clarity. Let's see who is trying to harm me. Frostthorn Kin. And I won't let him go even if I die in reincarnation. Looking at the familiar and concerned faces of the past, they now turned on themselves. Turning against themselves. I actually laughed. Indeed ridiculous. I worked so hard and spared no effort to save the lives of the entire clan, but they only thought of living and didn't care if I lived or died. To them, it doesn't matter who grew the 9 tails or who ascended to divinity. As long as that person becomes the savior of the whole clan, the other one should be trampled into the lowly mire. No one cares what I went through. Just like no one listened to my grievances in my past life. All that was seen was my embercloak running off on cold stop. And I was instantly crucified by the whole clan on the pillar of shame for my sins. They scourged my soul desperately. Cursed to bend my spine. Abused my flesh. As hard as I tried to save the lives of my entire clan. My wails and screams were drowned out by the cheers of the people I had set out to protect as they crowned Frostthorn sovereign when I was sent to heaven to take the Skyfire judgment for cold blood. My brother Coldstrike sat on the throne with his feet in my fur. Behind him, the 9 tails that originally belonged to me swayed in the wind. Fortunately, this time he didn't have any tails. What I can't get, he can't either. Father's eyes were so indignant that they almost overflowed with tears of blood. Gasping for breath, he questioned in front of me for a long time, but I never said a word. It's not that I didn't want to speak, it's just that I was too tired. The secret realm wasn't actually suitable for cultivation. Every day I was in there, I had to put in 3 times the effort I did in the clan. I don't eat or drink, and I don't sleep. It was not easy to rush back and grow the 9 tails before I reached adulthood. But I didn't expect that I would still be following the same path as in my previous life. Seeing that he couldn't ask for an answer, my father's hatred almost eroded his sanity. Before he ordered me to be executed, I finally spoke. My embercloak is no longer available, so it's up to my younger brother, who must have been practicing extra hard these days. Right. The moment the words fell, Coldstop stiffened. His eyes widened, panic written all over them. Father turned his head to look over, only then remembering that he had another son. The anger in his heart barely subsided for a few moments. And he opened his mouth in an expectant and humble manner. Good boy. How is your cultivation going? You won't learn from your brother, right? Quickly, reveal your tail and let the clan see. The thunderbolt in the sky hasn't receded yet. It must be for you. I, Frostthorn Kin, am blessed with deep fortune. I won't topple over like this. It must not. He didn't know if the words coming out of his mouth were lying to himself or to everyone. The eyes of the entire clan converged on Coldstop's tailbone. Coldstop was sweating anxiously. However, he was slow to reveal an embercloak, looking at his face. I laughed. This is the first time I've laughed so happily and recklessly since I was born again. My father noticed that something was wrong, and couldn't care less about scolding me, so he said sharply, Hanji, listen to the order. Let everyone see how well you've practiced. Have you forgotten your mission? The clan members are all watching. Didn't you say so? You want to be Frostthorn sovereign. This king remembers it all. Come on. As long as you show your tail, as long as you save Frostthorn Kin, you'll be promised anything. The smile at the corner of my lips froze, and my eyes flashed with consternation. So it was father who had promised him the position of Frostthorn sovereign a long time ago. No wonder. No wonder in my previous life, no matter how hard I tried, in the end the position of Frostthorn sovereign was always Coldstop's. I even thought that Coldstop had secretly practiced some secret techniques. But he's not even close to my age. So how could he have practiced these things? Now, it seems that it was probably father who helped him search for them, wasn't it? When I was a child, my father was always mean to cold blood in public. But he was kind to me. He sent all the elixir of ether to my place first. For a while, I thought he was favoring me. Now that I think about it, I realize that he was just being nice to me. A father only whips and educates the children he truly loves and cares for. As for me, it doesn't matter what I look like, as long as I can be a good tool to save the lives of the whole clan. When the time comes to die, all the credit will go to Cold Stop. Once I could not understand, but in that secret place, I finally saw the truth. Hanshi clenched his teeth and did not say anything, and in the end did not reveal his tale. Father's patience ran out, and finally reached out in front of him to cast a spell to force him to realize his true body. Until he saw that behind Hanji's real fox body, there was only a tiny tail twisting. The entire clan wailed out at the same time. Half a tail? Are you kidding me? Ordinary foxes are all born with at least one. What the hell is he? Not even as many tails as me, and he's even the Fox King's own son. He's been raised as the hope of the whole clan for hundreds of years. Frostthorn kin is finished. It's over. Completely finished. None of the two Fox Kings' bloodline are useful. Watching the clan's faces fade to gray. Father King's eyes filled with blood and anger. His hands revealed sharp claws and fiercely smacked on Cold Stop's face. In his mouth, he roared, "Sinful animal, where is the tale of your cultivation? What exactly did you do in the palace? It's been hundreds of years. You had a tail last time. Where's your tail this time? Say it. Why on earth did you do this? Coldling like this is also even so. You also." He didn't finish the latter words. I was stunned in place by his movements. It was then that I realized that the original secret of Cold Stop was not known to father. Unfortunately, this truth didn't make my heart feel half as good. After experiencing the pain of peeling my skin and digging out the Dan in my previous life, my feelings of awe and love for him had long since died. Father only gently smacked Hanshi once, and his eyes already ached when they touched Hanshi's blood-stained face. Hanshi glared at me hatefully and gritted his teeth. It's brother. It was Coldling who snatched my tail. He just wants to destroy Frostthorn kin. He just has a grudge against father. Father, understand. His words stirred up 1,000 waves. It pierced the secret that had been sealed in father's heart for many years. The clan members looked at each other in disbelief, not understanding what was happening. However, Father King turned his head to look at me after hearing this. I hooked up one side of my mouth and smiled with disdain. His gaze grew more and more sinister, his voice cold to the core. She's already ruined me, and now she's going to ruin Frostthorn kin. Sure enough, restless things can only give birth to restless things. Bitch, you really are exactly like your mother. If I, Frostthorn kin, am to be tipped over, I will take you sky offering first today. With those words, he sternly ordered for the clan to drag me to the stage. Obviously I had at least grown a tail. And Chill Stop didn't even have half of one. But he still wanted to execute me, but ignored Chill Stop. Favoritism was so obvious in this moment. It makes me unable to even lie to myself. Father, if mother knew what you did, you would regret it. Although the 9 tails are destroyed, the thunderbolt in the sky is not dissipated. There is even a tendency to gather more and more. I was dragged to the center of the stage, and the Skyfire judgment was dropping lower and lower as time went on. My breath is getting weaker and weaker under the pressure. Am I going to die again? It was so hard to be reborn once, and I still didn't seize the opportunity. Cold Stop looked at me with a sinister gaze, secretly transmitting with me behind my father's back. He said, "Good brother, Even if you were to be reborn once more, you wouldn't be able to escape. This is destiny. So what if Frostthornkin is finished? Father loves me. He will still pass the last Frostthorn sovereign throne to me. As for after I die, if it's extinguished, it's extinguished. What's it got to do with me? A smirk of triumph rose on his face. It was very different from the panic and despair of the clan. I laughed coldly and didn't respond to him. When he knew the truth, I wanted to see how he would cry. Father once again returned to the high platform. This time there was no longer any expectation in his eyes. Taking advantage of the fact that Skyfire Judgment had not yet arrived, he used Arcanum to transmit a message to the clansmen present. He said that he would take today's opportunity to pass the throne and make Cold Stop the next Silverpines Frostthorn sovereign. Instantly, the clansmen on the stage rose up in anger, and their emotions got so high that they lost control on the spot. Cold Stop doesn't even have a tail. How can he command Silverpines to become the Frostthorn sovereign when he's not even a scrap? Even if we don't have 9 tails, we still have at least 6 and 7 tails. How can Silverpines be handed over to him? This kind of thing that doesn't think about his clan doesn't deserve to be called an emperor. We disagree. In the next second, the clansmen who shouted their disagreement were exploded on the spot by a spell cast by their father. His body died and his soul was extinguished. The surrounding clansmen were startled, not expecting Father King to be so venomous today. Like a different person. But I understand him. Probably see through the Cold Stop no Arcanum. Cannot rely on their own to the throne. Only by him to pave the way. And this road must be forged by the blood of the rebels. Only then can it shock the crowd. While the clansmen didn't react, the Father King immediately ordered without question. From tomorrow, this king will pass the Fox King position to his second son, Han Ji, and he will replace this king as the next Silverpines Frostthorn sovereign. If any of your clansmen are not convinced, come forward and have a clear discussion with this king. He had violently suppressed them first. So naturally, he didn't dare anyone to be the one to stand out at this moment. The clansmen were whispering under the stage. I took in the movements of the crowd, and the corner of my lips couldn't help but pull out a cold smile. It seems that my previous judgment was still wrong. It's not that Father doesn't love his flesh and blood, but it's that he only loves Cold Stop alone. In order to fulfill Cold Stop's wish to ascend to the throne of Frostthorn Sovereign, he was able to turn against Frostthornkin, whom he had protected for his entire life. Gambling on the honor, disgrace and destiny of the whole clan, without waiting for them to confer. Skyfire Judgment was already closing in on me, within striking distance of my fox body. This time, my father was perhaps infuriated by me, and the execution was too hasty. He didn't strip me of all my fur, nor did he dig out my heart and dissect me. At this moment, Skyfire Judgment is close by, and the tip of my nose can almost smell the smell of burning fox fur. Soon after the opening of the show with a loud bang, the pressure of Skyfire Judgment came crashing down on me. I was crushed in the center of the stage. The stone beneath me sunk deeply. Cold sweat soaked out of every pore of my body, which was then roasted dry by celestial tribulation. The air around me was deprived by celestial tribulation, and I couldn't even breathe properly. I had just had my tail broken to stop the pain, so I could only use my last bit of strength to fight celestial tribulation with my remaining spells, and Skyfire Judgment hit me one after another. After a few rounds, my surviving fur was burned to a crisp. My body was covered in flesh and blood. Experiencing celestial tribulation for the second time, I could barely hold back from making a sound. But the clansmen under the stage were terrified. At this moment, they had already fled in all directions, hiding in the distance and picking a safe place to spy on me. After enduring for a quarter of an hour, Skyfire Judgment began to intensify. My bones were broken to the roots. and my internal organs were reduced to pieces in Skyfire judgment. Father King just sat steadily on the high platform and watched me suffer from the lightning tribulation. His cold expression was the same as in his previous life. Cold Stop was full of complacency as he leaned on his side to see what happened to me. They looked like a true father and son. My chest was filled with bitterness, wanting to laugh. I opened my mouth but only managed to spill a mouthful of blood. In the next second, a few more Skyfire judgments slammed down. I completely lost my strength. This time, I couldn't even raise my eyes. The shattered bones turned into ashes, and the blood dried up, leaving gruesome marks on the countertop. Until Core's heart was also shattered. My entire consciousness fell into complete nothingness. Is it time to die? Will there be another chance? But I can't avoid it. This is probably my destiny. To be a stepping stone for Hanji for the rest of my life. If I hadn't been so competitive and given him all 9 Ember Cloaks, could I have saved Frostthorn Kin? Would I have been able to save Frostthorn Kin? Without waiting for me to think further, a voice suddenly rang in my ears. Linger. I'm sorry for making you suffer. Father is late. Believe in yourself. You didn't do anything wrong. What Cold Stop snatched away with the forbidden technique will never truly belong to him. Even if he fooled everyone and was able to ascend to divinity, Frostthorn Kin will still topple, because he is not a pure Frostthorn Kin bloodline. You should know that. I have given you a set of feats to run silently in your mind. This is the secret Phoenix rebirth technique of my Phoenix Sovereign clan, now passed on to my son, Phoenix Sovereign. The sharp pain in my flesh didn't allow me to think about it, so I hurriedly chanted along with the technique he gave me. I don't know how long it took, but my consciousness gradually returned. My flesh was also recast. I closed my eyes and felt the arcanum in my body that was even more raging than before I severed my tail, and the joy in my heart almost gushed out of my chest. When every part of my body was covered with skin and flesh again, I slowly opened my eyes. Surprisingly, Embercloak had regrown behind me. And it had grown to its 10th strip. Mother was currently standing beside me, holding my hand and confronting Father. No, I should call him the Fox King now. There were still memories he left me in the gongfu that Father King had just given me. I realized that the Fox King wasn't my real father. The Phoenix Sovereign was. This is probably the real reason why he dislikes me and hates me. My mother didn't die either. Rather, she fell in love with the ancient Phoenix Sovereign Immortal King and ascended to divinity after soul bond ritual. My mother was more talented in cultivation than the Fox King. The Fox King is not willing to ascend to divinity alone. Hard to force, and he set a marriage contract and mother to stay bloodline. Finally, or father saved mother. In the end, it was father who rescued her. Angry and disappointed, she proposed to separate herself from Frostthorn Kin. The King of Foxes made a deal, asking my mother to leave me in Frostthorn Kin and threaten them with the lives of the whole clan. Father was alone and could not afford to make a scene, so he was forced to agree. Yet he still left a wisp of breath on me, concerned about my condition from time to time. After the Fox King left me behind, he did not dare to declare my identity, but also wanted to revive the glory of Frostthorn Kin with my Phoenix Sovereign bloodline. He claimed that I was his son. In order to let the clan to believe, he took advantage of the upper world banquet to go to the heavenly realm to find a fairy to steal to Silver Pines. Did not expect that the fairy even long ago adored him. The two people gave birth to Cold Stop. At the same time openly my identity. Said the lady for him to give birth to 2 sons. When the fairy gave birth in Silver Pines, Celestial Sovereign found out and sent people to capture her. Realizing that she would never return, she left behind a forbidden art stolen from the upper realm for Hanji, and disappeared completely in Silver Pines, which the Fox King did not know, but only Hanji himself knew. That's why he stole my Ember Cloak. The Fox King can't see the forbidden art in the upper world, but Father can see through it at a glance. Mother ascend to divinity after the cultivation is always unstable. He has been busy in taking care of mother cultivation, which did not care about me. I can be reborn because of the strand of divine sense that Father June left in me. Fortunately, this time, Father and Mother arrived before I lost my life. Mother looked at the Fox King with eyes full of resentment. You really let me down. After centuries have passed, Frostthorn kin is simply in a mess under your leadership. In the beginning, you promised to take good care of Linger for me, and now this is how you take care of her. Did you think that I was unaware of everything you did in Silver Pines? I am just ascend to divinity after the unsteady cultivation to cross over for 100 years to stabilize my cultivation. You even behind my back to my son to do such poisonous things. What cold stop! What Frostthorn sovereign! But you in the upper realm of the fairy drunken one night secretly sex born of the evil animal, fairy or fox. How dare you try to take away my son's cultivation? Dream on. I don't think you should be this Frostthorn sovereign anymore. The Fox King was trembling with anger, several tails showing behind him. But without waiting for him to strike, with a slight movement from Nyang, he flew off the high platform and fell heavily into the pit where I had just laid down. Nyang's face was solemn, her voice cold. Fox King, long time no see this son of yours, your past scandal, should I help you say it, or you say it yourself? The Fox King's face turned blue, and he never said a word under his mother's pressure. It was only after a long time that he stifled a sentence. Don't you believe me? Everything I did was for Frostthorn kin. As soon as the words left his mouth, cold stop, whose face was filled with astonishment in the distance, transformed into his true form. A human body with a fox face. A hybrid any way you look at it. He opened his mouth just to let out a scream before his voice was shut down. I had thought it was my mother's handiwork. But she smiled with all the tenderness in the world, her eyes looking straight upwards. I followed her direction, only to find a phoenix sovereign flying through the air. My mother explained to me that my father was playing chess with the emperor today, so he could only come down with one strand of Soul's Park. But it was enough to deal with the Fox King. The pressure of the ancient phoenix sovereign left the crowd breathless. In an instant, the entire clan was shaken in place by the scene before them. Mother's expression went cold as she questioned towards the Fox King. For Frostthorn kin, let this sinful animal be the Frostthorn sovereign. You don't know it yet, do you? That fairy left behind a forbidden technique of the upper realm on him before he died, and he snatched away all of my son's cultivation. Those 9 tails would have become the sinner's belongings if he hadn't chopped them off with his own hands. He slowly turned his head, his biting gaze looking at the hasty cold stop. My son's ember cloak. How are you using it? My son's hard-earned spells. How are you using them? Today, I will make you return it tenfold. He waved his hand violently. Cold Stop then let out a miserable scream. His flesh burned in a blazing fire. Until it became white bones. Until it burned to ashes. The Fox King didn't even have a chance to save him. When Mother finished cleaning up Cold Stop, she said to the Fox King, all these years you've been stealing and practicing forbidden arts with the blood and flesh of your fellow clan members in Silver Pines, thinking that Celestial Sovereign doesn't know about it. Today I have also come here by order of Celestial Sovereign to bring forward to the upper realm to judge the sins. At the very least, it's time to gouge out your heart and disembowel it, and beat down the soul-rend altar. There's something in store for you. After Father's divine sense took the Fox King away, Mother explained the events of that year with the whole clan. And also my identity. When we tried to leave, the clan spoke out to retain me. One by one, they apologized to me for what they had just done. They wanted me to take over the Silver Pines, and my mother said that I could come back from time to time after ascend to divinity. Looking at a familiar face in front of me, I hesitated for a long time, but still agreed. Since then, I became the Frostthorn sovereign of the Silver Pines. Bringing a sack of elixir of ether from my father every time I went down to the realm, the clan's talent for cultivation improved by leaps and bounds with the elixir. Soon the first 8-tailed fox was born. At the clan's request, I took him with me to teach him personally. In my spare time, I would lie on a chair and watch him cultivate. Such a day, well, it seems not bad.